And welcome to This Is Now. Honolulu firefighters are continuing to monitor a wildfire that's already burned about 55 acres, damaged homes, and forced mass evacuations on Oahu's leeward coast. The fire broke out at around 2:30 yesterday afternoon in Maili. Right now, we know of one major injury, a 94-year-old woman who suffered serious burns and breathed in smoke. She was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Now, the fire is now considered fully contained, but crews are expected to remain on site throughout the day. Dylan Ancheta joins us live from Maili with the very latest. Dylan.
Aloha, Mark. Thank you so much. We are located on the Ahuna family property. This property was completely burned in the fire. The devastation is absolutely real. I want to set the scene for you folks. We do still have HFD on scene here. They are monitoring some hot spots. We've been here for a couple hours now, and we do see the smoke still billowing from some of the containers, some of the brush just beyond this property. We are told that the Ahuna Ohana has lived here for many years, and right in front of us is where their home once stood. They lost absolutely everything. We spoke with Kat Uhuna, who said she was at work when this fire broke out yesterday, and she was actually alerted by a neighbor who called her and said there was a fire behind the house, and she eventually called her daughter, who was home, and thankfully she was saved. But they on the property, they have carnival rides, they had their home, and they also had a party rental business. So they had many containers of tables, chairs, equipment, and all of that is now gone. It has been reduced to rubble. There's also a number of burned vehicles on this property. And we were here yesterday when the fire was at its height, and we spoke to Kat later in the evening hours after she had learned that everything she owned was gone. Here's what she said.
If Netta didn't call me, for me to call her to check outside, my daughter would have perished in the fire. And then when I called her to check on everything, she told me, Mom, I couldn't save anything. There was no time. The containers were on fire when I got out, and the house is up. Everything is up in flames. The smoke was so black. When I drove up, they wouldn't let me up the driveway, and I couldn't even check on them, but they weren't answering the phones that me and my husband was trying to call them. But Lunetta, thank you, babe, for calling and letting me know what was happening at the house.
Auntie Kat definitely putting on a brave face as she learned of the devastation at her property. And she also opened up and shared that she is battling cancer. And so this fire is just another one of the challenges that her ohana is now facing. Coming in today, they basically don't know what's next for them. They want to take a metal detector to this pile of rubble. She told us that she still has a lot of her jewelry still buried under this. There are some family heirlooms. Over here we see a yearbook that is burnt, but you can still make out some of the words on the pages there. So really, this family is starting from ground up. They lost absolutely everything, and there is a GoFundMe page that has been set up. We do have a link to that in this story on our website. And a little bit of tragic news. They did say that they lost one pet in this fire, but miraculously they do have a pet pig that is in a kennel just off to the side there, and that pig survived the fire in that very kennel. So there are glimmers of hope for this ohana, but they say ultimately that they are overwhelmed by the outpouring of aloha and love. Live in Maili for now, we'll send things back into the station. I'm Dylan Ancheta for Hawaii News Now.
Thank you very much, Dylan. And because of the fire, the DOE says the free summer meal service at 2 West Oahu schools will be impacted today. Those are Waianae Intermediate and Maili Elementary schools. If you need to find another summer meal site, head to the website at the bottom of your screen.
And due to the breezy trades and elevated fire risk, the First Alert Weather Team has declared that it is a First Alert weather day across the entire state. Because of that fire threat, leeward areas seeing gusty trades and continuing to see dry conditions. We are seeing a few showers out there right now. We'll get to that coming up in a little bit. We do have a wind advisory over the eastern half of the state. This includes Maui County and portions of Hawaii Island. It's going to continue until 6 p.m. on Tuesday. We could see easterlies between 20 to 35 miles per hour and wind gusts getting all the way up to 50 50 miles per hour. It's been very gusty over the past couple of days. Another look at our first alert radar and satellite. We are seeing some rainfall moving in closer towards the leeward portions of Oahu. Over the last hour or so, we've had some windward showers, and these showers have been strong enough to make their way over into the central portions of the island, but falling apart as they meet the Waianae mountain range. We're actually seeing very light rainfall trying to make its way over towards Maili, but it's been falling apart as it's getting right close to the leeward coast. A quick look at our winds outside right now. Overall, very breezy. These are sustained winds. In town, 17 miles per hour out of the east-northeast. Over on Maui, much breezier, 24-mile-per-hour winds. Zooming in closer towards Oahu. Unfortunately, we don't have a wind reading along the leeward coast of Oahu. 9-mile-per-hour winds out of the east-northeast in Kapolei, but still breezier over the windward portions. And in town, of course, areas that are just near the leeward coast likely seeing much stronger gusts as the air is racing down the mountain range. I'll give you a closer look at this and what you can expect throughout the rest of this week in my full forecast coming up.
Mahalo, Drew. Now, the Maili fire was just one of several incidents HFD tackled Sunday afternoon. Crews also extinguished a house fire in Waipahu that was caused by ignited fireworks. Broke out just before 2 at a single-story home on Leovaina Street. Flames also spread to a neighboring structure. Fortunately, no one was home at the time, and the fire was put out in about an hour. HFD says estimated damage is $500,000. And Hawaii Island police are investigating a fatal fire on Huina Road in Puna last night. Around 11:15 p.m., officers and firefighters arrived on scene to find a single-family residence engulfed in flames. A 79-year-old man called 911 after his wife said there was a fire in their garage. He said flames spread so quickly he was unable to get back into the house to locate his 76-year-old wife. Officers searched the area but were unable to find her, and a severely burned body was discovered in the remnants of the structure. Officials are waiting for an autopsy to confirm the victim's identity. The house was completely destroyed. Hawaiian Electric has started the process of restoring power service to hundreds in upcountry Maui. They've been in the dark since yesterday after HECO activated its public safety power shutoff program because of the wildfire risk. We're told that crews are now conducting inspections, which may include the use of helicopters or drones. Service can be restored after any damage to power lines or utility equipment is repaired. And fireworks are believed to be the cause of an explosion at Camp Erdman on Oahu's North Shore. Honolulu police say a firework was thrown into one of the bathrooms early Saturday, and 4 teenagers wearing ski masks were seen fleeing the area. The YMCA says the incident caused minor damage, but thankfully no one was injured. After a few separate incidents, the YMCA says they've increased overnight security and added additional surveillance cameras. A 22-year-old woman is recovering after her car fell off of the H1 viaduct and down onto Nimitz Road below. This happened at about 2:30 Sunday morning. EMS officials tell us the woman was rear-ended, which sent her off the freeway. She suffered serious injuries and was rushed to the hospital. And the Cocoa Head Crater Trail is closed today after an 8-year-old boy was critically injured over the weekend, but it hasn't stopped many from going. First responders rushed there late Saturday evening after the boy fell about 20 feet down a shaft near the top of the trail. He was airlifted out in critical condition. Closure signs were posted shortly after, but hundreds of hikers ignored them.
I was surprised to see the tape, and so we just talked to people around us, and just so that there were hundreds of people already in there, so we just did it.
The Coconut Coalition, a volunteer group that maintains the trail, says it encourages everyone to heed all warning signs and take every precaution seriously. Well, the Trump administration announced a 25% tariff on Japan and South Korea today. It comes ahead of a meeting between the president and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Erica Brown has the latest from the White House.
President Trump and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meet at the White House Monday evening, where the two leaders are expected to discuss a new nuclear agreement with Iran following last month's strikes, as well as a proposed ceasefire between Israel and Hamas.
The utmost priority for the president right now in the Middle East is to end the war in Gaza and to return all of the hostages.
Ahead of the meeting, the father of one of the remaining Israeli hostages told CBS News they are counting on President Trump to seal the deal.
We are hoping and asking President Donald Trump to make Netanyahu end the war and go to a hostage deal.
An official briefed on the negotiations tells CBS News the current proposal is for a 60-day ceasefire with a phased release of hostages, Israeli troop withdrawals from parts of Gaza, and discussions on a permanent end to the conflict. President Trump is also escalating his trade war with newly announced 25% tariffs on Japan and South Korea beginning August 1st.
We have these beautiful letters.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt displayed letters sent to the two countries and said about a dozen more trade partners will soon receive similar letters. President Trump announced tariffs on dozens of countries back in April, but put a 90-day pause in place for negotiations. With that deadline approaching Wednesday, the White House now says trade partners will have until August 1st to make new deals.
My mailbox was full last night with a lot of new offers, a lot of new proposals, so it's going to be a busy couple of days.
So far, only two countries, Vietnam and the United Kingdom, have finalized new trade agreements. Erica Brown, CBS News, the White House.
The federal detention center in Honolulu is set to take in more immigrant detainees after more funding was approved for ICE or Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Immigration attorneys and lawmakers are among those questioning the plan. Ben Gutierrez has more.
It's unclear how many more migrant detainees will be sent to the federal detention center in Honolulu. Some wonder why they'd be flown here from the continent in the first place.
If there's a actual policy reason for it that makes sense, that would be one thing.
The plan comes after President Donald Trump signed his big beautiful bill, which includes additional funding for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, or ICE.
That one big ugly bill provided $45 billion in additional funding to ICE, make it one of the richest law enforcement entities in the federal government, if not in federal government history.
Representative Jill Tokuda is questioning whether any of that money could help equip Hawaii facilities with more resources.
To make sure that we can actually house people with fidelity. And when I mean fidelity, I mean making sure that they're safe, they are well and taken care of both physically and mentally.
After visiting the center a few months ago, Tokuda is concerned about migrant detainees being mixed in with criminal inmates awaiting trial.
As we know nationally, a majority of these migrants that are being sent to these encampments, whether it's on the mainland or to the detention center here in Hawaii, have no criminal background. And yet they're being housed in the same facility.
An immigration attorney who was at the facility last week says immigrant detainees are often moved from state to state. He says that complicates their constitutional right to legal representation.
If I was an attorney on the continent and my client was here in Honolulu at the FTC, I don't know how I would represent them.
The center in Honolulu is one of several others approved to house more migrant detainees. It's unclear when more will be held there.
And that was Ben Gutierrez reporting. Honolulu police are still searching for these suspects in a drive-by shooting in Kalihi that occurred on Saturday. It happened at around 1:30 a.m. near Palamea Lane. 4 people were hurt. EMS rushed 2 of the victims to the hospital in serious condition. We spoke with a witness at the scene.
I hear like the shot about maybe 5 times. People is gonna die maybe after that, we don't know. It's gonna stop.
Anyone with related information should call 911. Some welcome news for some Kauai residents. After 3 months, those living in Hanalei and Anini Beach are no longer being asked to conserve water. Repairs have now been completed to a pump that failed at the Maka Ridge well in Hanalei back in April. The request was lifted Saturday morning at around 11:45 a.m. Coming up, search and rescue efforts are ongoing after a devastating flash flood in central Texas. This as the death toll continues to rise. Plus, an important step in Lahaina's recovery as state crews are gathering important information for building permits. An update still to come. Welcome back. At least 90 people are dead in Texas after catastrophic flash flooding. Dozens are still unaccounted for, including 10 girls from a summer camp. Nydia Cavazos is in Kerrville, Texas, with the latest on the search and rescue efforts.
This time-lapse video shows how quickly a river in Kingston, Texas rose in just a few minutes on Friday. Search and rescue teams say they're finding bodies up in trees, including at least one of the girls from Camp Mystic.
We found 2 young girls up near the Hunt store. And then about 10 o'clock, we found another little girl wrapped up in debris in a tree.
More than 24 campers and counselors from Camp Mystic died in the flooding. It's just one of many children's summer camps along the Guadalupe River, where mountains of debris, including mangled cars, now sit.
From Hunt all the way to Comal County in a straight line distance is over 100 kilometers. This is a massive field that is happening. And again, this is unprecedented flood events.
Flash flood and evacuation alerts from the National Weather Service went out in the middle of the night when most people were asleep.
We had first responders that were getting swept away, actually responding to the first areas of rainfall. That's how quick it happened.
More than 800 high water rescues have happened since the flooding began.
It was scary.
As floodwaters destroyed Scott Walden's house, he and his wife had no other choice but to go outside.
I grabbed my wife and we literally jumped in the water and it swept us down to about 200 feet down that way. And there's a crepe myrtle tree that we grabbed hold of and we waited for rescue.
The risk of life-threatening flooding is still high in central Texas, with more rain on the way. Nydia Cavazos, CBS News, Kerrville, Texas.
Back here at home, news for Maui wildfire survivors. 6 workers from the State Department of Accounting and General Services are now assigned to note the boundaries for land plots. That includes shorefront properties. They need to figure out where the state shoreline ends and private land begins. This is required information when applying for a building permit.
The certified shoreline is the baseline for the setback for typically for buildings. So if you want a building permit and you want to build on your property, the shoreline is where you measure the setbacks from.
Dozens of shorefront properties were burned in the fire, which also destroyed property markers and survey stakes that were previously used. The Department of Hawaiian Homelands has secured a $22.3 million federal grant. The money from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development will fund housing projects statewide to help clear DHHL's more than 29,000 person wait list. The department plans to award nearly 1,600 Native Hawaiians with agricultural and residential lots through the rest of the year.
And stick around. Coming up after the break, we'll walk you through our first alert forecast. We still have that wind advisory up over the eastern half of the state and the elevated fire risk throughout the next several days. Well, happy Monday, everybody. Again, today is a first alert weather day because of that elevated fire danger risk and the breezy trades we have outside. This is what we're tracking going forward. Again, elevated fire danger. That wind advisory over Maui County and Hawaii Island has been extended until Tuesday. Really not tracking much rainfall out there. We've seen a few windward showers actually make their way over towards Oahu today, but really we're going to be relatively dry over leeward regions. Another look, there's the wind advisory over portions of Maui County and Hawaii Island. Gusty trades, easterlies between 20 to potentially even 35 miles per hour for sustained winds, gusts closer to 50 miles per hour. Our winds outside, we're already breezy, 24 mile per hour winds out of the northeast in Kahului. And then just zooming in closer towards Oahu, of course, we actually don't have a wind reading over the leeward portions of the island, but it is breezy. Those winds are climbing up the Waianae mountain range, and they're speeding up as they do, and as they race down, they're coming down much stronger. Again, we've had these first alerts up through today all the way into Tuesday. Those wind gusts are getting stronger, closer to 30 to 40, potentially even 50 miles per hour. Another tool that the National Weather Service and other forecasters use is the KBDI. I've been showing this a lot over the past couple of days. This is the Keech-Byram Drought Index. Today we're at level 567. The highest you can go is 800. It just measures how dry the brush fuels are across the state. Typically, when we get to about that 600 number, that's when the National Weather Service starts to issue fire weather alerts, those red flag warnings. We're not quite there yet, so we're not seeing that. It is humid out there in town, around 64 degrees for current dew points, and in Lihue around 70 degrees, so very humid out there. We're going to see humidity continue to drop as we're going into the afternoon, the hottest part of the day. We also have drought across the state. Over on Hawaii Island, we're seeing level 3 out of 4 drought conditions over near Waimea, and then of course the leeward portions of Molokai and Maui around 2 out of 4 drought conditions. That's considered severe drought. And then over on Oahu and Kauai, we're actually considered abnormally dry across a majority of the island, and a level 1 out of 4 drought conditions over the leeward portions of those two islands. Again, we are tracking drought out there. It's one of the reasons we've been seeing these dry brush fuels, of course, over the leeward portions of each island. Our island by island forecast starting out for today, or this is really, it says Monday in the top left, but this is for Tuesday. Oahu, you're seeing 87 degrees for a high temperature in town tomorrow. Mostly sunny out there. Again, wind gusts closer to 25 miles per hour and above. Again, we could see some isolated instances of those wind gusts getting closer to 30, 40 miles per hour and potentially 50 miles per hour just downwind of Mauka regions. Maui County, windy, mostly sunny, showers over the eastern portions of Maui proper, 87 in Kailua Kona, 87 in Captain Cook. Spotty evening showers are possible on the leeward portions of Hawaii Island, mostly cloudy over the eastern portions, still gusty out there, and very windy over the northern portions of Hawaii Island. Those wind gusts getting closer to potentially 40 miles per hour. Here's a quick look at our surf and shoreline forecast. Relatively steady out there for this afternoon. East-facing shores are rough and choppy. South-facing shores 1 to 3. A swell is going to be moving in Tuesday evening. North and west facing shores are relatively small. Here's our 7-day forecast. Again, today is a first alert weather day. We've extended that to be in place throughout Tuesday as well. The reasoning that wind advisory has been extended in time, still tracking the elevated fire danger risk, slightly weaker winds as we're going into Wednesday and Thursday, and a small chance for showers as we're going into this weekend.
Thank you, Drew. Still to come, Squid Game is an international hit, but some fans of the show are taking their love for the series to a new level. That's straight ahead.
All right, well, hundreds of fans lined up to take part in a real-life version of the games from the Netflix series Squid Game.
Such a twisted show, so let's just make a real-life version of it, right? The event in Indonesia was organized to celebrate the show's third and final season. Check this out. Participants took part in two main games, a giant jump rope and an event where participants were tied together while racing to finish mini games. That was from season 2. Now, the thriller series follows cash-strapped contestants who take part in deadly survival challenges featuring childhood games for a chance to win a fortune. Fortunately, the winners of those games did not come up with any life-changing sums. It was such a great show.
Yeah, it was so good. If you haven't seen it, make sure to